Hi, everyone. My name's Zola, and my mother sold my house after I gave birth. I got epic revenge on her, and I ended up dating her young boyfriend's rich dad. But first things first, shout out and credit to Lovely Call. Today's story is inspired by your title idea. Remember to post your new title ideas in the comments below. It needs to be an original story, something we haven't done already. Give a like to the ones you would like to see animated. For the most active members who create very popular titles, we will contact you to join a secret server on Discord to offer you behind-the-scenes access. For now, let's jump straight into today's thrilling story. My mom hated me. Ever since I was a kid, she would do as little as possible to help me. She reminded me every day that if it wasn't for me, Dad wouldn't have left her. She barely fed me. She never took me to school, and I always ended up doing everything around the house. So I had to learn to be independent pretty early on. I worked 3 paper routes and started a pretty successful lemonade stand, and after a summer, I bought myself a bike so I could pedal to school. I learned how to cook, and I did my homework at school. That way I didn't have to walk and be late in the mornings. I didn't have to starve when she'd refuse to make food. And so that I'd have enough time to clean, cook, wash the dishes, do the laundry, and take the trash out at home without worrying about my homework. I got good grades. I was industrious, and people told me I had a great future as an artist. Even without my mother's support or help. I even raised my own college tuition and managed to save up enough for a deposit on a house just from selling my art online. I was a pretty responsible kid, so when I got knocked up when I was 19, it was a bit of a shock to everyone. People started judging me, especially my mom and her friends. Ugh! And here I thought your daughter was a good kid, but look at her, pregnant in her teens. Ugh! I don't know how you manage with a kid like that. I keep telling you, Zola's a curse. Sometimes I wish I didn't keep her. She sucks the life out of me. It was funny to me how Mom said that out loud. And while I was right there, serving her and her friends their drinks, I literally did everything in the house. If it wasn't for me, she'd starve to death. But I just smiled politely at her and her friends as if I didn't hear. Soon, I was going to get out of that horrible house, and we'll see how she manages without me paying the mortgage. I just needed to wait. Only a couple more weeks, and my new house will be transferred in my name. Sure, it was my fault that I got pregnant. I was naive. I was young and stupid. I hated my life at home, and so I began to dream of a better one. And when I met Brian, I thought he was the answer to my prayers. He was kind, funny, and most of all, hot. Brian and I got on like a house on fire, and our love was intense and beautiful like a firework. But like a firework, our relationship burnt up and died out just as quickly. The moment he heard I'd gotten pregnant, he skipped town. I thought I could build a family with him, a home that was much warmer and better than what I had. But then, he left, and I was left with a baby on the way, and a dream. I didn't let the absence of my baby's father deter me, though. I still held on to that dream, to a world where I can become a better mother than mine ever was. And I knew I could do it. I had already achieved so much at such a young age. I bought a house. I was making a name for myself. I had people who loved my art. Surely I could provide for my daughter. And I didn't need a man to do it for me. My mom mocked me for my decision, though. Children ruin lives, Zola. You should know that by now. You ruined mine. Why Why do you think it'll be any different for you? You're gonna have that baby, and soon you'll have no life. You're gonna end up just like me." But I didn't listen to her. I never do. I was the only responsible person in that house, and if I ever listened to her advice, I'd be sure to end up just like her, alone and bitter. So as soon as the new house I bought was transferred to my name, I moved out. I wanted my child to never have any connection to my mother and her home. I wanted him to step into the world in a loving home, my home. It was a week before my baby was due that I found out that one of my paintings sold for $400,000. When I saw the email, I nearly fainted, gave birth, and had a seizure all at the same time. I was ecstatic. I had never in my life imagined anyone would pay that much for my work. But apparently, there was a bidding war when that went on, and some anonymous buyer kept driving the price up until his opponent folded and gave up. That was the best thing that had ever happened to me, until I gave birth to my son a week later. My mother, of course, hearing of the good news, wasted no time to come over and suggest heavily that I should give her some of that money. "Please, Zola, you owe me. I fed you, clothed you, sent you to school. You owe me that much." "Mom, you did none of those things. Let's be real here." "Oh, please. You know I'm really struggling. My welfare checks just aren't covering enough of my bills." "Then why don't you get a job?" "Well, you know me." Yeah, I knew her all right. And the reason she wouldn't get a job was because she was lazy. All she did all day was chat with boys on some dating site. "I'll think about it." That's what I said. But it'll be a cold day in hell if I ever give her a single cent. I put my money away for my son's future. Most of it I used to pay the balance on my house. That way I would never need to worry about the mortgage. So, at 19, I owned my own house. When my mom heard about what I did, she barged into my house unannounced and began shouting, "How dare you! You said you were going to give me that money." "I never promised you anything. I thought about it, and my thoughts confirmed that you don't deserve my help. Now leave before I call the cops on you for trespassing." That was when my mom suddenly changed tact. She knelt and put her hands together as if she was praying. "Please, please, Zola, you have to help me. I promised I would go and meet Carlos. He's the love of my life. I finally found happiness. I just need to go and move to Argentina. I want to be with him, Zola. Please, have pity on your mother. You have a beautiful son now. I'm alone, Zola." Of course she met some young guy online, and now she's decided she was going to fly thousands of miles to move in with him. He was probably just after a green card. For a second, I really considered it. I thought maybe it'd teach her a lesson. But that'd be a few $1,000s worth of a lesson at least. And I decided my mom wasn't worth that much. Not to me, anyway. "I'll think about it," I told her again. But my mom took things into her own hands. That night, as I slept, she snuck into my home and stole the deed for my house. And in a week, she already sold my property without me even knowing. I just went home one day after taking my newborn son to the hospital because he had a fever to find out that some strangers were moving into my house. My house! Only it wasn't mine anymore. My mom sold it to them. I went straight to her home, and she was gone. I was so mad. Luckily, her friends, who were there to watch the place while she was gone, were pretty loose-lipped, and I found out exactly where her new boyfriend lived. So, I had to leave my baby with a friend, and I flew all the way to Argentina to confront my mom. When I got there, I was shocked. Her boyfriend's house was massive, so he wasn't after her passport after all. It looked like she was the gold-digging one. I immediately exposed her plans and told Carlos everything she had done. She begged him to not break up with her, but it was too late. Carlos was not about to get roped in by a gold digger. And his father, Manuel, agreed. Carlos kicked my mom out into the streets. The funny thing was, I found out Manuel was the anonymous buyer for that painting that allowed me to buy my own house. What a small world! We got to talking. He told me he loved my art, and he asked me out on a date. We got really close after I flew back to my son, and he came over and bought my house back for me. With his help, I sued my mom for selling my house, and the best part was, because she hadn't been paying her mortgage, her house got foreclosed on. Even if she got out of prison, she'd have no house to go back to. Her friends abandoned her because they didn't want to get associated with a convict. And now, the daughter she hated is dating her ex's hot, rich dad. I can't be more satisfied with how karma got her back and how the universe repaid me for all the bad things she put me through. And best of all, my son will grow up with an amazing stepdad and a loving older brother.